हेलो फ्रेंड्स, के.जी. क्लासेस में आपका स्वागत है। आज हम आपको माई लास्ट डचेस बाई रॉबर्ट ब्राउनिंग 1812 टू 1889 के इम्पोर्टेंट एक्सप्लेनेशन के बारे में बताएंगे। फर्स्ट, आई सेड फ्रा पेंडोल्फ से लेकर टर्न एंड आस्क 10 लाइन्स 5 to 13। In these lines, the Browning's poem My Last Duchess, the Duke show the portrait of his last duchess to the messenger who has come with an offer of marriage with the daughter of a neighboring count. The Duke tells the messenger that the portrait was done by the great artist Pandolf, who was a monk. He further says that he had told him the name of the painter with a definite end in view. His purpose is to emphasize upon the messenger the fact that he will not like any flirtation with others on the part of his future wife. Even when he wanted the portrait of his last duchess painted, he engaged a monk and not an ordinary artist to paint it. He would expect the daughter of his master, the count, if she becomes his wife, to concentrate all his attention on himself and not to indulge in my flirtation with others. Visitors who have looked at the picture carefully have always noticed the deep, passionate look in its eyes and have then flirtation with others. Visitors who have looked at the picture carefully have always noticed the deep, passionate looks in its eyes and have then turned towards him inquiringly, as if they wanted to ask him what brought that serious, passionate look in the eyes of the Duchess. But none ever had the courage to put this question to him. The messenger was not the first person to turn to him inquiringly. He would satisfy his curiosity. He himself would explain to him, the messenger, the cause of that deep, serious expression. To understand this explanation, it is necessary that he, the messenger, should know the name of the painter. Second है, she had a heart से लेके और blush at least lines 21 to 31. The Duke further tells the messenger that the last duchess had a very simple, childish nature. He fails to find suitable words to describe her childish simplicity. She was pleased by trifles. She was so sensitive that even little act of ordinary courtesy were sufficient to make her blush. She liked everything she looked at, and she looked at all things. She could not judge and distinguish between what was really worthwhile and what was not. She had no discrimination or sense of right and wrong. The ornament which he presented to her and which she wore on her breast, the beautiful sunset in the western sky, a branch laden with carriage from the garden presented to her by some foolish admirer, the white mule on which she used to ride on the terrace. Each one of such trifles would draw thanks and appreciation from her, even when she did not express her pleasure in such things in words. She would at least blush with pleasure and thus show her appreciation. The Duke is critical of the dead Duchess. In his view, she lacked good sense and discrimination. His vanity is hurt at the very thought that she treated his own presents at per with petty trifles given to her by others. थर्ड है हु वुड स्टूप से लेके आई चूज नेवर टू स्टूप लाइन 34 to 43. The Duke tells the messenger that his last Duchess had the childish habits of thinking everybody. There was no harm in thinking others as such, but she failed to distinguish between the valuable gifts given to her by him and the ordinary acts of courtesy done by others. The Duke further says that he did not try to correct her and put an end to her foolishness in thanking everybody because he thought it below his dignity to take note of her childish conduct. Moreover, he does not have the gift of fine speaking which orators have. He does not have sufficient skill in speaking and so could not have brought home to his wife, even if he had tried, her folly in thanking everybody without discrimination. She was so childish that she would never have realized that in certain matters she failed and in certain other respects she went beyond limits. Thus she failed in maintaining the dignity of his noble family, and she exceeded all limits in thanking everybody without discrimination. She was so childish that she would never have accepted her fault and tolerated such criticism. Rather, she would have indulged in argumentation and discussion. She would have tried to justify herself and given reason for her conduct, even if he had the necessary skill and even if she were ready to be instructed by him. He would have considered it a loss of dignity on his part or to have corrected her. He therefore decided not to come down even a little. Note: the speech clearly reveals that the Duke is a proud and conceited person. He has false notion of dignity and decorum. Fourth, oh sir, she smiled. Smiles stop together. Lines 43 to 46. The Duke tells the messenger that his last Duchess was childish and frivolous. She did not know how to conduct herself with dignity and decorum as the wife of a man of rank and birth like himself. She had a habit of smiling. She smiled at everybody. There is no doubt that she smiled at him as he passed by, but when she smiled at everybody who passed by her, there was nothing particular in the way in which she smiled for her husband. Now this was wrong. She did not have discrimination. She did not distinguish between her husband and others and treat them differently. The husband, more especially one like him, belonging to an ancient and noble family, must not be treated like every Tom, Dick and Harry. Her habit of smiling and thanking for the slightest courtesy shown to her increased so much that he could no longer tolerate it. Therefore, he gave orders that her smiling should stop, and so all smiling was stopped. How did the smiles stop? What were the orders he gave? The poet has left the meaning obscure. Some critics feel that the order were that she should be put to death. नेक्स्ट है आई रिपीट द अकाउंट से लेके ब्रॉन्ज फॉर मी लाइन 48 to 56. The Duke now changes the subject and talks about his intended marriage with the daughters of the count. The master of the messenger, he tells the messenger that he knows the reputation of his master for generosity and liberality. The natural generosity of his master is sufficient guarantee that his legitimate expectation for a dowry would be fully satisfied. A suitable dowry will not be denied to him. Then very cunningly he adds that of course his primary interest is not in the dowry but in the fair daughter of the count. He had told him so in the very beginning, and now he repeats it so that there may be no misunderstanding. Now the duke and the messenger prepare to go down where the company is waiting. The messenger stands back so that the duke may descend first, but the duke politely says that they would go down together. However, before they descend the stairs, the duke calls the attention of the messenger to a bronze statue of Neptune, the sea god. The statue shows the god riding and controlling a seahorse. The duke is proud of the statue and says that it is a rare statue specially carved out of bronze for him by the famous sculptor Claus of Innsbruck. The duke thus tries to impress the envoy with his highly refined artistic taste. Thanks, best of luck.